Hey everybody, Martin Thoburn here with an exciting new tutorial. Today I'm going to be exploring and talking about a brand new piece of software, MWM. It's a 3D real-time video mapping software. Allows you to create some awesome 3D objects, map them in the physical world, and connect them with great VJ software like Resolume. As you can see here, I've got Resolume hooked up to this software. It's outputting all the textures straight into MWM. Lighting can be adjusted on the fly here. Let me pull up a simple scene here. I'm going to change the texture to something static. As you can see, this software is super powerful. As I move this light around, you can see it updating in real time. Exciting new possibilities. And with the connection to Resolume, you get all of the layer control, BPM mapping, sound output, and all the fun stuff that Resolume does with the power of 3D mapping, UV mapping inside of MWM. We're going to do this tutorial in 3 parts. It's going to start first by modeling the object in Cinema 4D. You could model it in any software, but Cinema is just what I'm comfortable with. And you don't really need to use any modeling software for MWM if you just want to work with simple cubes or spheres. However, if you want to do something more advanced, pyramid's probably one of the simplest primitives you can model. But if you want to do something more than the basic primitives they have inside the software, you can import your own OBJ objects, and that's what we'll be doing for this tutorial. So I'm going to start out here in Cinema 4D to model this pyramid. Now, the pyramid that I've built in the real world is made out of foam core. It's built to the golden ratio proportion, so I know the exact size in centimeters. So this is going to be really easy to create my virtual model based on the physical one. So under primitives here, got a pyramid. And my pyramid in the real world is 60 centimeters by 38.161. by 60, and these are golden ratio proportions. So here it is, looking groovy, nice pyramid. All right, and I'm gonna just go in here in the side view and just sort of raise this up so it's sitting a little flatter here, something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, just want it sitting up on top of the grid. Oh, that looks maybe a little too high. No, that was okay. Yeah. All right. So it's sitting on the floor a little better now. So that's pretty much it for the pyramid. Really easy model to make. Now, if I want to texture this model properly, I'm going to have to make this an editable object, to do proper UV mapping. And before I do that, I'm going to import a texture here under top-down textures. So I've got this real simple texture. It's a 600 by 600 pixel image, and it just has 4 faces that I'm going to use. Each one's a triangular shape, and I want each one of my pyramid faces to have a different color. This is just a real simple base texture that I created so that I can make my aligning and UV mapping quite easy. Now, if you've never done UV mapping, if you apply a texture, you can see this doesn't really look right. You know, each face has kind of a mix of all the colors, and they're sort of wrapping around the object in a strange way. That's because the default mapping isn't working. And, you know, you could try some of the other mapping like cubical or cylindrical or spherical to try to get some looks that you like, and, you know, mess around with some of this. Some of these built-in projection styles. However, to do this properly, we really need to map it ourselves. So I'm going to select this object, make it editable, and change my layout here to BP UV edit. And this is going to allow us to map this texture properly. Now, first things first, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and change this to UV mapping. I had done all those other styles there, and that was a little strange. So make sure your mapping's on UVW mapping here. And I'm going to just sort of drag this texture in here, and we can see these triangular shapes, how they're cut out. And if I load and open this texture, this image in here, I can actually see exactly what's happening. So this top of the triangle here is all blue. So each face is getting the same slice of this image. And what we want to change is that each face gets just one of these colored triangles, as opposed to all of the faces here getting different ones. So right now you can see this triangle is covering too many surfaces. So the way I'm going to start with this is with point. I'm going to grab a UV point, and I'm going to grab this middle point right here. There it is. And I'm going to move it down, bring it in. I'm going to zoom in real tight here. Be very precise about this. And bring it in maybe like right there. How about like something like that? All right. So what I've done here is made all of the faces red, which is a good start. And then what I'm going to do is rotate all of those faces because we have the proper shape now. If I select a different face like this one, I can move it around. Here you go. You can see this. And I can hit R for rotate. Start rotating this guy around here. And hit E for move. And line it up right there. Grab this face back here, move it up, R for rotate. And there might be a faster way to do this. I'm pretty new to UV mapping here, so I'm doing it the way that I know it. There's probably a better way. However, I don't find this too painful, to be honest. So, rotating it up. Great. So now if I take a look at my object, most important thing when I look at it top down, I want to see red, green, blue, yellow in the same order as my texture. If I got those out of order, any sort of dynamic 3D effects, things that I render out, they won't map properly. I want every face, doesn't matter which side is up or down per se, as long as the colors are alternating properly. And if you want to play around with a pyramid, I'm going to put all these files up on the internet on my website, martinthoburn.com. Feel free to download these textures so you can play around with it yourself. But really, this tutorial is more meant to be a proof of concept, how this software is working, not so much step-by-step for pyramid instructions per se. Okay, so now that I've got this great pyramid, I need to export it. And I can't use this typical Cinema 4D file, but what we do want is an OBJ. So if you export an OBJ, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it in my 3D objects. I've already got a lot of pyramids that I've created before in here, but that's okay. I'm going to create a new one, and I'll call this Pyramid Demo Final. And before we export, we can set a scale. Now, my experience is that a scale of 10 is really great for MWM. I did a scale of 1 at first. That's the default, and that had some bad results. If you do a scale of 10, the size of the geometry that comes in is more manageable within the software. So that's what I'm going to do. Just some little experience tip that I had there. So back in MWM, I'm going to go ahead and delete this cube. And this default light that's in here, I'm going to go ahead and delete that too. So object, import, and let's see, Pyramid Demo Final. Great. And we get this dialog box. It's extremely important that you check this generate normals. Now it's kind of hard to tell that you check it. It just sort of lights up blue instead of having a check or an X in there. I find the UI in this program a little bit clunky. And then the next parameter here is angle. And what this angle determines is how the lights in the scene will wrap around your object. The sort of higher the number, the softer they will sort of sweep around the angles. A very low number will create really rigid, hard edge lighting where you have any sort of edges on your objects. The lights won't wrap around a lot. So I find the default a little bit too soft. I'm going to go down to like maybe like 50 or 60. Make it a little bit tighter. That's sort of my preference on look and feel for this. So I'm going to say okay, and look, we get a pyramid in there right away. It's sitting on the floor for the most part. Things are looking pretty good. If I wanted to, I could raise this up just a hair. There we go. And we don't see anything. There's no lights in our scene, so everything is pitch black. So let's go ahead and create a light. I'm going to create a point light. I think those are kind of fun to play with. Move it up. Move this up a bit. And move it over. And then I'm going to make a second point light. It's always nice to kind of have 2 or 3 lights in the scene. I believe with this free version of the software that is provided, you only allowed 3 lights. So there we go. That already looks pretty cool. I'm liking that. And in our scene here, the way this software works, sort of, you have your objects here, and I can go in here and manipulate these parameters or enter in specific values. Under lights, I have all the different controls for lights, and you can see very quickly that it's really easy and fun to play around without any textures or anything. You can just bring in some primitives and have fun with this. However, I do want to bring in our sample texture. I'm just going to drag it down here into the interface, because this is going to allow for much easier mapping when we actually are exporting this through our projector and trying to align our image. Having this texture with the different solid colors is going to make this job very easy. So that's going to be the next step, is to get this mapped to our physical object, and then we're going to have more fun bringing in those animated textures, linking it to Resolume. But before we can do any of that, I need to get an output going here. So under Create Output, that's how you create a new window. If you had the full-featured version of this software, you could have multiple outputs, but with this free version, you can only get one. Now, my projector resolution is set to 1024 by 768. It's XGA resolution, so this is the proper size. However, whatever size, you probably want to match the output of your projector that you're working with. So I'm going to hit this output, and I'm going to leave it up on this window for now, because what I want to show you here is under this setting here, what we've been working through is this master output. And if you click the right mouse button, that's orbiting, and the middle mouse button, you can scroll in or move around. But if you click Output 1, what we see now is anything that happens here in the interface is happening to our output. And the way my pyramid is set up here in the physical world is against a wall. So my pyramid here is set up against the glass. It's on the wall. So, and my projector is just sort of pointing straight at it. So I need to come look straight at this object. Now I'm looking down onto the floor. I could rotate this pyramid to be against a wall and have my my point of view match how it is in the physical space. However, I find that a little bit unnecessary. I kind of like how it sits on this floor naturally, and I'm just going to look straight down on it. It's effectively the same thing as my projector looking straight at this pyramid on the wall. Not much difference. And I'm going to take this output window here and just drag it over to my projector, and as you can see here in the output, you're going to see it coming. Now I'm just sort of going to rinky-dink line this up to sort of exist there. If you right click on it, it should make it full screen. I've been having glitches and errors where if I right click on that, it doesn't go full screen. It just totally disappears on me. So I'm going to avoid that. Doesn't matter, because the power of this software is we're going to stretch and transform all of our geometry to match the real scene. Now before I can do that, I kind of need to get this to scale. I'm going to zoom in here with using the scroll wheel with my mouse, kind of get it pretty close. All right, that's pretty good. Now it needs to be up a little higher, so I'm going to go under my output here and maybe mess around with my Z space just a hair. Let's see. Yeah, like Maybe. There we go. That put the center point pretty much in the center. That's great. All right. And then I'm going to zoom in just a bit. And that looks pretty good. Just because I've set up my scene so perfectly, it matches fairly well. But if you look closely, the geometry isn't totally matched. And you know, if my scene had been a little off like that, things don't really line up. So the way to get this dead perfect, I mean, you can try to sort of line up your camera and zoom it in to be as best as possible, but truth be told, you're going to need to do some final stretching and distorting. And the way that works in this software is right here under calibration. There's several options up here like masks, blending if you have multiple projections, mesh warping if you have sort of uneven geometry or curvature. But the calibration is really the main output. And the way this works is you hold down the command key while you're on the calibration field here, and you click on all the different vertices of your object, right? Anything that had a vert point in 3D, that's going to come out proper here. All right. So I've got my 5 points. Now I should be able to start moving them. But no, you can't. This is a serious bug in this program, is that you have to have at least 6 control points before you can perform a calibration. Now, a pyramid only has 5 points, so this is problematic. I don't have anywhere to click. I can command click my heart away, but it's just not going to work. The only workaround I found for this is to add a cube into the scene. Here, I'm going to go to find my secondary object. I'm going to kind of move it around a little bit. There it is. Whoop-de-doo. I'm going to move it out. Great. And I'm going to command click on it. That's my 6 point, and I can just hide this object. It goes away. That's the only way I could figure out how to do that. If you have another workaround, I'd love to hear it, but it seems like a bug to me, or seems like a not very well thought out calibration system. I suppose they were assuming that you were going to have at least a 6-sided geometric object, but in my case, this primitive does not. So once I have that up and running, I can literally just move these points around. And as you see, it stretches all of the geometry, all of the verts. So this is actually distorting the 3D geometry. This is really powerful. This isn't just 2D distortion. This is actually taking into account the perspective of the scene, how my camera's looking down on this. And I'm going to just pin this right in the center. Now, it's a little tricky for me because I'm happening to be working on a computer kind of far away from the pyramid right now. So I'm just trying to eyeball this from across the room. It's a little tricky, but here I'm going to grab the bottom right corner and kind of drag that down. And what I'm trying to look for is that these edges are all lining up and that the points are sitting nicely in the bottom here, right? So here we go, bottom right. I'm going to pin that up there. And then the upper left here, that needed to go over a bit, and then this one down here, I'm gonna pin this over there. Boom. That looked pretty good to me from across the room. I'm just gonna go spot check that real quick. Okay, it looks like my bottom right corner really is a little off. There we go. Whoa, okay, drag that out too far. So you have to be careful not to overstretch your geometry because you can get some kind of weird warping going on. That's not what we want. Great, that looks pretty good to me. I'm pretty happy with that. Let me just drag that over just a hair. Whoa, boom, done. Okay. Obviously, if you overstretch your control points, you can really get some gnarly results. But right now, that looks lined up. Okay. And to get rid of these control points, I'm just going to hit done. And now, instead of moving around in my output, I'm going to go back to my master scene. And now I can kind of view my whole space here, manipulate my lights, and everything's going to update right now. You can see that. Check it out. My scene is live and dynamic. Everything is mapped properly. Geometry is looking great. And to really make this come alive, I can bring in some more dynamic animated content. So here's a piece of content I created from a top-down perspective of a pyramid. This is using Grayscale Gorilla's Transform plugin for Cinema 4D. Really awesome plugin. And I'm just going to drag that right down here. And whoops. So silly enough, you have to have your object selected. So each object has its own set of textures. So make sure I have my object selected. There we go. And you can see it up here in real time, live, and we see it animating over there on the actual pyramid. It looks really great. I'm liking that. So the limitation of this software, I mean, the power really comes in with all the 3D lights, having the real objects, having the UV mapping coming in proper. You know, so if I change my lighting here, I can get some pink light. Maybe I'll get some green light over here. So really, really great. However, the video playback, the layer blending options in this software are kind of weak. For example, if I create a new layer, bring this one over top, you know, supposedly I'm supposed to be able to blend this. Sometimes this works for me. Other times I can't get it to work at all. This didn't work for me earlier. I tried this and it worked just fine. So I find this horribly awkward. I just tend to stick to one layer. I don't. The blending is minimal. The way you can blend multiple layers over there, so it's really not that powerful. I hope that gets improved in future versions of the software. But for now, and perhaps better forever, is using some more powerful 2D VJ software. This is really designed to create 3D objects and map them. Resolume is amazing VJ software, in my opinion, the best VJ software. And we can take any textures we want or any video output from here on a Mac using something called Siphon. And the way that works is Siphon, we have to go into Arena, under Preferences, under Video, and you really want to make sure that Siphon input and output is enabled. And if you don't have this enabled already, you're going to need to enable this checkbox, and you may have to restart the software if you are enabling it for the first time, or if you started Arena after loading this software here. So let's go ahead and load up Arena. I'm going to make a new composition here. I've already got a new one open. I'm going to go to the settings. I'm going to make this 600 by 600 because that's the same size as my texture. So that's where all my content is created at 600 by 600 pixels. So that's what I want to have. That's what I want to have here. Let's see what other cool stuff. Oh yeah. All right. So check it out. I got some neato effects going on here. I've got this light. Got a cool 2D stroke going over top the pyramid, and that should map to each one of those faces just nicely, because all this content is created using the same layout, same texture layout. All the mapping, UV mapping we did should work. Now back in MWM, if you command click in the media folder here, you're going to see Arena Composition. Not sure why it's showing up twice. Shouldn't matter. I'm just going to select this, close it up, and make this my texture. And immediately you can see my output from Arena in real time. I can blend these layers. I can do anything that Arena can do, which is great because Arena can do a lot more. I mean, Resolume is super powerful. For example, if I wanted to rotate this layer here onto the beat, that's no problem. I'm just going to scale up this layer, click here and click at the BPM sync, and now I've got this thing pulsing on the beat. I can bounce it back and forth if I want, and now I've got this thing hopping. Maybe I'm going to bring this down a little bit. So now I've got this crazy effect going on here. Maybe I'll bring this over here. Bring this up. There we go. Fun stuff. And back in MWM, if I can, want to see these colors, I can just make my lights neutral white. so we don't get any weird color distortion going on here. But there it is. I've got my output from Resolume feeding right in, so I get all the power, all the audio, video, real-time performance that Arena and Avenue provide, and getting it straight here in MWM 3D video mapping done right. Very cool software, very powerful. Really looking forward to seeing this thing come to life. This is just version 1.1. Hope some of these bugs in the UI and interface will get ironed out, and this will become a more robust piece of software. I find this a little bit clunky to work with, but I'm super excited about its potential. And hats off to the developer. Check out their website. You can download this software for free. They do offer a full version for 400 euros almost, but the free version is quite powerful. It's what I'm using here. There's some limitations on the amount of objects and the amount of lights you can have, and there's only one video output. But for a simple primitive like I've got going, this is all you need to get going with it. Check out my site, martinthoburn.com. If you want to see some other tutorials, check out my Bodies and Beats app, or just watch some of the fun animations that I've created. Those are all there on my site. So thanks again for watching this tutorial. If you've been working with MWM, I'd love to see what you've been doing with it. So keep the conversation going. Thanks again, and see you next time.